All right, so here's a little update or upgrade I'm working on. Got the rear end all pulled apart. So I've had the TRE e-locker in the front for about 1.5 years now, and so far it's been awesome. So here's my rear third member. Got it all pulled apart. So this currently's got a lock right in it. So that's coming out, and I'm putting a second e-locker in the rear. Waiting on my new carrier bearings to show up. Should be here today, hopefully, but yeah, so there's a sidekick rear third member with 512 or 513 gears. The lock right in this guy's held up pretty good. Haven't really had any problems with this one, but you know, driving this on the road, anybody that's got a Samurai with a lock right in the rear knows how fun those are. So it's gonna be awesome to have just a regular open diff when I don't need the traction. And then also in the sand dunes, down the road I want to add turning brakes. And so that brings me to the next thing. I figured since I had this all apart and I was waiting on the carrier bearings, I've been working on this project for a while, and I figured now was the time, since this was apart, to go ahead and get this finished. So, you know, I've been running the original drums on this the whole time, and they've never worked very well. And they're heavy. I mean, believe it or not, that drum by itself weighs more than all of this. And that doesn't even count the, you know, the weight of the backing plate. So I'm gonna include all the stuff I've used to put this together. But basically this is a Trail Tough disc brake conversion part. This is made to put a stock front rotor onto the back. So I just bought this piece separately from their kit. And then this is a Wilwood. All the other parts are Wilwood, so this is a Wilwood hat. And again, I'm gonna put all the part numbers in the description. Wilwood hat. This is a lightweight, kind of like a drag race style rotor. And then an aluminum Wilwood caliper, and it's a 4-piston. Again, this is, I think it's the Dynalite series off the top of my head. I've had all these parts for several years. I've had problems. Once I got this rig going, it's like, it's really hard for me to tear it apart to do upgrades to it unless I have to. So that's why it's taken so long. I know I've showed some stuff on this, but I figured since it's apart, finally doing the locker, now's the time to get this done too. So kind of my main thing is the rear drums I've never gotten to work that well. And again, I've never really spent much time on them, but the Samurai adjusters, it's just all, they're kind of crappy brakes. So this should be a lot better. So really this is all basically readily available parts except the caliper bracket, which I made myself, but it's actually pretty simple. So this is just 1/4 inch, and the 1/4 inch is what it needs to be for the spacing to work properly. So it just grabs 3 of the backing plate bolts, and the caliper bolts right onto this guy. And you know, this could be made with a hole saw and a grinder and a drill. You know, it doesn't have to be made fancy. It's just, I have access. You know, I own a CNC plasma table, so why not make it look cool? I'll pull this apart. I have everything just sitting here. Nothing's bolted together yet. So one thing I've always used, makes Samurais much easier to work on, is this SJ410 bearing retainer plate. Normally the bearing is held in place by the backing plate, but so you take, I believe it's a 3-inch hole saw, and you open this up so the bearing can pass through, and then this does the job of holding the bearing in. And normally the backing plate will be behind this plate. So for this, disc brake conversion, these are required. And then, so the 1/4-inch plate bolts on the back side of the axle flange. And, with all the spacing, that works out perfect. The caliper is gonna be against the back of this. And everything lines up nice. Gets the caliper nice and centered on the rotor. So if people are interested in this, this is a bracket I could sell as well. Pretty soon I'm gonna have a line of Samurai parts I've been working on for a while, getting a whole series of different parts, front and rear bumpers, and YJ spring brackets and stuff like that. So this will be part of my line of parts. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now. Again, I'm just waiting on a couple parts to finish everything up. I also needed a couple fittings. It's also giving me an excuse to, I tried to build a pretty good looking axle housing. I've always had this ugly stock brake line on it. I didn't build a nice one because I knew it was temporary with the drums. So now I'll build a nice brake line that looks good, fits them nice. That's a little vulnerable over there too, where it's under those brackets. That's always worried me, pinching that off against a rock or something. So I'll route the new one up out of harm's way. And here's a little bit of a look of my pretty basic rear suspension. It's just a wishbone style 3-link. Just has 3 like Johnny joint style joints on the axle. Big A-arm basically, but people call it a wishbone. And 2 straight links. Works awesome. Very simple, really strong. It's got a sway bar. These soft spring rates, that's a necessity. So yeah, there we go. If you got any questions, let me know. And again, I'll list out all the part numbers of these Wilwood parts. One thing though, these aren't exactly stuff that's meant to go together. Normally, I don't know exactly how this hat is supposed to be used or what its kind of real application is, but it's the only one I could find that was 5 on 5.5 to this 8-bolt pattern for this style rotor. So what I ended up having to do was pop out these studs that came with this Trail Tough adapter plate and sand the diameter of the head just a tiny bit to where it would push nicely into this aluminum piece. So these are basically going to act as a dowel, and then I'm going to drill 5 holes in between, in between the studs, and there's going to be a 3/8 countersunk head bolt, and that's what's actually going to hold the 2 pieces together. I have a feeling this hat is meant to go behind a hub similar to this, but have the studs pressed through to hold the pieces together. And I was unable to find a stud to do that in this thread pitch. Samurais use a less common thread pitch than most rigs. So I wasn't able to find a stud that would hold this all together. So that's what I'm doing on this one. But again, it's not anything difficult to do. Again, just a drill, countersink bit, and all the the torque, or whatever you want to call it, from the brakes is going to be transmitted through the stud heads. So I don't have any worries about strength whatsoever. But that's I also built a second set of these plates to hold 2 calipers, with the thought of possibly running dual calipers so that I could have like an independent turning brake system where it uses its own calipers. They're generally a better setup. But I'm gonna just go ahead and try this with the like the inline style cylinders on the turning brake and see how that works. It's a lot less money and less weight and all that. So I'm gonna try that first. But if it doesn't work, I can easily unbolt these brackets, put on the duals, and then buy a second set of calipers. And then just have to change out the cylinders on the turning brake handles and, you know, some plumbing. But might as well try the easy way first and see how it works. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now with this thing. One step at a time. And then I'm getting awfully close with this stuff. I've got you know, the intake manifold's finished. I've got the exhaust manifold all tacked together. I've got to do a couple more little things, and then I'm gonna have a friend TIG weld it for me. I'm not a TIG welder, but so that's a 1.6 8-valve head. They have bigger exhaust valves and bigger ports, and so the intake manifold was built to match the larger ports, as well as the exhaust manifold. And I haven't decided yet what cam I'm gonna run. Probably just a stock cam, because I feel like the turbo is gonna, you know, give me all the extra power, and I feel like the stock cam has got a lot better bottom end than the cam I'm running now. The cam in my engine now is a 272 cam, so it's kind of like the higher RPM, and the bottom end torque suffers. And I'd rather have some torque, so hopefully this turbo comes on nice and early, and with the stock cam, give me some decent low end grunt, at least as decent as it can be for such a small motor. But hopefully I'll have this done before the next spring. Try to get this all knocked out during the winter. I'm hoping to build a new bottom end to put it on, so I'll just have a whole new engine. I possibly have a lead on a forged bottom end out of a Swift GT, because the regular Samurai cranks are cast and the rods are cast, and the Swift GTs with the twin cam 16-valve head had forged bottom ends from the factory. So that's what I'm hoping to do, but we'll see what happens. Stuff's getting hard to find. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, let me know. Thanks.